Welcome to Monk's Temple. Tonight, let's begin not with what's missing, but with what's already here. You are here. Listening. Breathing. Aware. In this moment, you are already complete. The mind may rush in with its questions, its subtle anxieties, its quiet wondering if there's something more, somewhere else, some other way to be. But beneath that current of thought, there is a stillness. A presence that doesn't need to be sought because it is the very ground of your being. This is not philosophy. This is direct experience. Feel the weight of your body where it rests. Notice the air moving in and out of your lungs without any effort from you. This is life, living itself through you, right now. And in this simple noticing, the search, for a moment, comes to an end. We spend so much of our lives looking for the extraordinary, the peak experience, the perfect insight, the moment of transformation. We overlook the miracle of the ordinary. The sensation of warmth in your hands. The subtle sound of your own heartbeat in your ears if you listen closely in the quiet. The awareness that is reading these words. This is it. This is the sacred ground. The spiritual journey doesn't begin with a flight to a distant mountain, it begins with a return to the immediate reality of this breath, in this body, in this room. Let me tell you about a man I met once in a small town in the American Midwest. He was a retired barber named Frank. His shop was a time capsule from the 1950s, the striped pole outside, the worn leather chairs, the scent of talcum and bay rum. Frank had cut hair in that same shop for 48 years. When I asked him if he ever got bored, if he ever wanted to travel or do something else, he smiled a slow, easy smile. He said, "Son, I've traveled the world in this chair. I've heard stories of war and love and loss and triumph. I've seen boys become men, watched families grow, shared in a million ordinary, beautiful human moments. This chair, this square of floor, has held more life than any passport ever could." Frank wasn't seeking an experience, he was present for the experience that was always arriving. He had turned his ordinary location into a sacred space simply through the quality of his attention. He found the universe not by moving through space, but by being deeply present in one small point within it. This is a fundamental teaching, echoed across wisdom traditions but so easily forgotten. Fulfillment is not a function of geography. It is a function of attention. Wherever you place your full, unmixed attention becomes vivid, alive, and complete. The feeling that something is missing almost always arises when our attention is fractured. Part of us is here, but part is already in the future, imagining a better moment, or in the past, comparing this moment to a memory. We are haunted by ghosts of other times and places, and in that haunted state, the present feels empty. But the present is never empty. It is only our presence that is sometimes absent. Consider the psychological concept of flow, identified by researcher Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. It's that state of complete absorption in an activity where self-consciousness falls away, time distorts, and you are fully engaged. A painter lost in the stroke of a brush. A rock climber focused on the next handhold. A programmer debugging a line of code. In flow, there is no sense of something missing. There is only the seamless unity of the doer and the doing. Why? Because attention has become unified. It is no longer split between the activity and a running commentary about the self. The restless, seeking, self-evaluating mind, the source of that missing feeling, gets temporarily switched off. You are no longer a person painting. You are the painting happening. This state isn't reserved for artists or athletes. It is available in any activity approached with full engagement, washing a dish with total care, listening to a friend without planning your response, even walking and feeling each footfall. The doorway to this state is not a special talent, it is the intention to give your whole self to what is in front of you. Yet, our modern world is engineered to shatter attention. Notifications, multitasking, the endless scroll, they train us in fragmentation. We become connoisseurs of distraction. And then we wonder why we feel a persistent, low-grade emptiness. We've mistaken stimulation for fulfillment. We've filled every silence, and in doing so, we've drowned out the quiet voice of our own being that speaks only in stillness. The first step back is not to add another thing, another app, another practice, another goal. It is to practice subtraction. To create moments of intentional non-doing. To sit and do nothing but breathe. To walk without a destination. To listen to the hum of the refrigerator without labeling it. In these gaps, the fragmented pieces of our attention can begin to settle and cohere, like snowflakes landing on a still pond. There's a story from the world of music that illustrates this beautifully. In the early days of recording, engineers discovered a phenomenon they called tape hiss. It was a low, white noise in the background of every recording, the sound of the magnetic tape itself. At first, they saw it as a flaw, an imperfection to be eliminated. They developed noise reduction systems, they used finer tapes, they fought the hiss. But some pioneering ambient musicians, like Brian Eno, did something radical. They stopped fighting it. They accepted the hiss as part of the sonic landscape. They composed music that incorporated the silence and the hiss, making the background part of the foreground. In doing so, they created soundscapes of profound peace. The flaw became the foundation. Our inner restlessness, that faint background hum of, "Is this all there is our psychological tape hiss. We spend enormous energy trying to reduce it, eliminate it, outrun it with louder experiences. But what if we stopped fighting it? What if we accepted that hum as part of the natural field of our conscious experience? What if we composed our lives with it, rather than against it? The moment we stop treating it as an enemy, it loses its power to disturb. It becomes just another part of the rich, textured soundscape of being human, not a signal of lack, but a signature of aliveness. Let's explore a tale set in a very different environment, a high-frequency trading floor in Singapore. A young quant named Arjun lived in a world of nanoseconds. His algorithm sought microscopic arbitrage opportunities in the global markets. His life was a blur of data streams, flashing numbers, and the intense pressure of capital that never sleeps. He was successful, wealthy, and utterly drained. He felt a hollowness that no bonus could fill. On a rare vacation, he visited a remote Buddhist temple in the mountains of Bhutan. The silence was deafening. There was no data, no metrics, no competition. Just the wind, the prayer flags, and the slow, mindful movements of the monks. He tried to meditate, but his mind was a roaring server farm. Frustrated, he confessed to an old monk, "My mind won't stop. I can't find the peace you have." The monk nodded and said, "You have trained your mind to be a superb tool for seeing differences, price differences, time differences, strategic differences. This is a powerful skill. But you have not trained it to see sameness. To see the stillness beneath the differences. Your tool is sharp, but it only cuts, it does not embrace." The monk gave him a seemingly absurd task, to sit and watch a single candle flame for 10 minutes each day. Not to analyze it, just to watch it. For Arjuna, used to processing millions of data points per second, focusing on one unchanging point was agonizing. But slowly, over weeks, something shifted. The flame was never truly still. It danced, it flickered, it lived. In learning to see the infinite activity within the apparent singularity of the flame, he began to sense the underlying stillness within the frantic activity of his own mind. He didn't leave his job. He returned, but he brought a new awareness. The market's chaos was no longer just a source of stress, it became, in a way, another dancing flame, a pattern of immense complexity arising from a place of deep, impersonal stillness. His sense of lack began to dissolve not because his circumstances changed, but because his relationship to the activity of his own mind changed. He learned to be the awareness watching the frantic calculations, not just the thinker identified with them. This points to a core insight: we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness in which thoughts arise and fall. The feeling of something missing is a thought, a story the mind tells itself. When you believe that story, you suffer. When you see it as simply another passing weather pattern in the sky of your awareness, it loses its bite. You can say, "Ah, there is the something is missing story again." And in that simple noticing, you are already free of it, because you are the vast space noticing the story, not the story itself. I remember a powerful lesson from a sailing trip off the coast of Maine. We were caught in an unexpected calm, a complete absence of wind. The sails hung limp. The boat drifted aimlessly. My companion, an experienced sailor, grew visibly tense. He checked instruments, looked at the sky, muttered about schedules. I, knowing nothing, simply lay back on the deck. In the profound silence, I noticed the gentle slap of water against the hull, the cry of a distant gull, the sun warming the wood. I felt a deep, unexpected peace. He saw the calm as a problem, an absence of the necessary condition for movement. I experienced it as a presence, a rare gift of absolute stillness. Our situation was identical. Our perceptions were worlds apart. How often do we treat the calm spaces in our lives, the downtime, the pauses, the breaks in productivity, as problems to be solved? We feel a lack because we are not moving toward a goal. We fail to see that the calm itself is a different kind of richness, a different mode of being. The wind always returns. But the peace found in the calm can be carried into the storm. Now, let's visit a weaver in a small village in Guatemala. Maria creates breathtaking textiles on a backstrap loom, an ancient technology that ties one end of the loom to a tree and the other around her waist. The tension in the threads is created by her own body. She once told me, "Every piece holds my breath, my posture, my mood on the day it was woven. If I am tense, the fabric is tight and rigid. If I am sad, the colors, even if bright, feel heavy. If I am at peace, the cloth has a gentle strength." She doesn't fight her emotions. She allows them to move through her and into the work, where they are transformed. The fabric becomes a record not of perfection, but of authentic presence. Her flaws, the slight variations in tension, are what make each piece unique and alive. We, however, often try to present a flawless fabric to the world, hiding our tension, our sadness, our human inconsistency. We edit our lives into a highlight reel. And then we feel a lack, because the curated image we project feels hollow compared to the rich, complex, sometimes messy truth of our actual experience. The feeling of something missing is often the gap between our curated self and our authentic self. Closing that gap doesn't require becoming more perfect. It requires the courage to be more real, to weave our actual human experience, tension, sadness, and all, into the fabric of our lives, and to see the beauty in that truthful pattern. This is where the concept of wabi-sabi from Japanese aesthetics offers profound solace. Wabi-sabi finds beauty in imperfection, impermanence, and incompleteness. A cracked teacup repaired with gold, kintsugi, is more prized than a perfect one. A weathered, moss-covered stone is more evocative than a polished gem. It is a philosophy that embraces the natural cycle of growth, decay, and death. Our consumer culture screams the opposite: seek the new, the perfect, the complete, the permanent. Is it any wonder we feel a lack? We are conditioned to reject the very nature of our existence, which is imperfect, transient, and beautifully unfinished. Embracing wabi-sabi means looking at the cracks in your life, the failures, the aging, the unresolved stories, not as evidence of lack, but as the unique markings of a life genuinely lived. The feeling of something missing softens when we stop demanding that our lives be a finished masterpiece and start appreciating them as a tender, ongoing process. Let's journey to the quiet, frozen landscape of Antarctica. A researcher named Elise spent a year at a remote station studying ice cores. The isolation was extreme. The silence, outside of the wind, was total. In the first months, the emptiness of the landscape mirrored an emptiness she felt inside. She missed human connection, greenery, variety. She fought it, filling her few spare hours with movies, books, music, anything to simulate the world she'd left. One night, a storm knocked out the station's satellite link. No internet, no contact. Her digital distractions vanished. She panicked, then succumbed to the reality. She put on her extreme weather gear and stepped outside. The storm had passed. The sky was a cascade of auroras, green and violet ribbons dancing soundlessly across the cosmos. The ice fields glowed. In that moment of forced, absolute presence, the feeling of lack vanished. It was replaced by an awe so vast it erased the separate, lonely Elise. She was part of the ice, the sky, the dance of particles from the sun. She later wrote, "I had to be stripped of everything I used to fill myself up before I could realize I was already full of everything." Her experience illustrates a spiritual principle: sometimes, fulfillment is found not through addition, but through a radical subtraction of distractions, until all that is left is the irreducible reality of what is, and that reality, when met with bare attention, is overwhelmingly whole and complete. We don't need to go to Antarctica. We can practice a miniature version of this tonight. As you listen, notice if you are also doing something else. Planning tomorrow, replaying a conversation, judging these words. Gently, without force, see if you can let those secondary activities fall away. Just listen. Just be here. In that unification of attention, you may touch the hem of that same wholeness. So we've begun to see this feeling not as a flaw, but as a form of intelligence. A signal. Now, let's follow that signal into the heart of a different kind of story. One not about finding, but about losing in order to discover what was never lost. There is a parable told in the Caucasus Mountains, about a young eagle that fell from its nest and was raised by a family of barnyard chickens. It pecked at the dirt, it clucked, it lived within the fence, its eyes always on the ground. It felt a strange, restless tug in its chest, a memory in its wings it couldn't understand. It looked at the chickens around it and thought, why am I different? Why does the wide sky call to me when everyone else is content with the dust? The other chickens told it, don't be foolish. This is the world. The fence is the boundary of safety. The sky is for daydreamers. The young eagle tried to quiet the call. It buried its feelings. But the restlessness grew. One day, an old, wild eagle soared overhead, casting a great shadow. It let out a piercing cry. In that moment, the young eagle's body remembered. Without thinking, it ran, beating its untested wings against the air, clumsy, terrified, and then it was aloft. It didn't know how to fly, but the knowing was in its bones. The feeling of something missing wasn't a problem with the chicken yard, it was the eagle's true nature, whispering. Your restlessness may not be about your life being wrong. It may be about a part of you that hasn't yet remembered how to fly. A deeper, truer nature calling you to stretch beyond the familiar fence of your current self-concept. This call is often misunderstood as a need for external change. We think, I need a new job, a new city, a new relationship. Sometimes that's true. But more often, the change required is internal. It's a shift from identifying as the chicken, limited, grounded, defined by the flock, to recognizing you are the eagle, meant for another kind of seeing entirely. The fence isn't always your circumstances. The fence is often the limiting belief, I am only this. I can only have this. I must be content with this. Let's bring this into a modern laboratory. The field of neuroplasticity shows us that the brain is not a fixed, chicken yard fence. It is malleable, capable of forming new neural pathways throughout life. The feeling of being stuck, of something missing from your potential, is often a psychological experience that has a physical correlate in the brain, well-worn neural ruts of habitual thought and behavior. The act of paying mindful attention, of trying something new, of questioning your automatic beliefs, is the neurological equivalent of the young eagle beating its wings. It's creating new pathways. It's literally rewiring the brain from the inside out. The feeling of lack, then, can be the catalyst for your own neurobiological liberation. It's the discomfort of the old pathway recognizing its own limitation, and the latent potential of a new one stirring. I think of a friend who was a brilliant financial analyst but felt a persistent, soul-deadening emptiness at work. The numbers felt meaningless. His eagle cry was a love for woodworking, which he did as a hobby in his garage. He felt it was an impractical fantasy. The chicken yard voice said, security, prestige, the known path. The restlessness grew unbearable. He didn't quit his job overnight. He began, slowly, to give more attention to the wood. He took a night class. He sold a piece. Each small step was a beat of his wings against the dense air of his old identity. It was terrifying. It was also exhilarating. Today, he runs a small, sustainable furniture studio. He works harder and earns less, but the hollow feeling is gone. He didn't just change careers, he answered a call to express a different part of his being. The lack was the gap between the life he was living and the life he was meant to embody. But what if your call isn't to a new career? What if it's much quieter, much subtler? What if it's simply a call to be more authentically yourself within the life you already have? A call to speak your truth a little more, to care a little less about approval, to pause more often, to simply feel the sun on your face. The eagle's flight isn't always a dramatic migration. Sometimes, it's just the first, shaky lift off the ground, the realization that the fence was never locked, just believed to be so. Now, consider the opposite terrain, the desert. Not a place of lack, but a place of essence. In the desert, everything non-essential is stripped away. The landscape is reduced to rock, sand, sky, and immense space. There is a clarity there, a harsh honesty. Many spiritual traditions use the desert as a metaphor for the inner journey, the place where you are stripped of comforts and distractions and face the bare bones of your own existence. The feeling of emptiness you carry might be your internal desert. It feels barren, frightening, lonely. You rush to plant gardens there, to build cities of distraction. But the desert's purpose is not to be made fertile in the way a valley is fertile. Its purpose is to reveal the sky. Its emptiness is what makes the stars so brilliantly clear. Your inner emptiness, when you stop trying to fill it, can become like that desert sky. A vast, clear space in which the essential truths of your life can shine with unwavering clarity. What is truly important to you? What remains when the noise fades? The desert doesn't provide the answers. It provides the silent, spacious arena in which your own answers can arise. There's a story from the Bedouin tradition about a man lost in the desert, dying of thirst. He crawls over a dune and sees what he believes is an oasis, lush trees, a sparkling pool. With his last strength, he staggers toward it, only to find it's a mirage. He collapses in despair. As he lies there, resigned, his cheek against the hot sand, he notices a small, rough-skinned cucumber plant growing in the shade of a rock. It's not a glorious oasis. It's a humble, almost ugly little plant. But it is real. He digs it up and sucks the moisture from its roots. It is barely enough, but it saves his life. He had been seeking the spectacular salvation. The grand oasis, the dramatic rescue. Life offered him a cucumber root. Our feeling of something missing is often a longing for the oasis, the perfect solution, the grand romantic love, the career that feels like a calling every single day. We overlook the small, real, nourishing truths that are already growing in the shade of our current life, the simple friendship, the moment of quiet competence in a job that's mostly routine, the beauty of an ordinary sunset. The grand oasis may be a mirage. The cucumber root is salvation. Learning to value the real, the small, the imperfect, the enough, is how we quench the thirst of that restless longing. This connects to the psychological practice of gratitude. It's not about Pollyanna-ish positivity. It's a cognitive refocusing of attention from what's absent, the oasis, to what's present and sustaining, the cucumber root. Neurologically, it strengthens pathways associated with contentment and reduces the brain's habitual scanning for threats and lacks. It's a practical way to train the mind to dwell in the reality of what is, which is always more abundant than the mind's story of what isn't. Let me share an anecdote from a surprising place, a hospice. A nurse named Eleanor told me about a patient, a former corporate executive, who in his final days was not reflecting on his deals or triumphs. He was talking about the smell of rain on the pavement when he was 6, the feel of his daughter's hand in his when she was a toddler, the way the light came through his kitchen window on a winter morning. His lack, the time he felt he was missing, the achievements he hadn't reached, had dissolved. What remained was a pure distillation of sensory, loving presence. The monumental had fallen away, leaving the essential. Eleanor said, "We don't get to that point of clarity by waiting for the end. We can practice it now, by stopping, right in the middle of the busyness, and asking, what is actually here, right now, that is real and beautiful?" The feeling of something missing often vanishes when we perform this simple act of existential triage, separating the mirage of what should be from the real, tangible texture of what is. Now, let's turn to a concept from physics, entropy. The second law of thermodynamics states that in a closed system, disorder tends to increase. Things fall apart. Energy dissipates. Our lives are not closed systems. We take in energy, we create order, but we fight a constant, subtle battle against entropy. The garden weeds. The desk cluttered. The body ages. The carefully made plan goes awry. I believe a deep, often unconscious layer of our existential restlessness is a reaction to entropy. We have an innate longing for order, meaning, and permanence in a universe that is inherently leaning toward dispersion and decay. We want our relationships to stay perfect, our achievements to remain shiny, our health to be constant. When they don't, we feel a sense of lack, as if something has been taken from us. But what if we made peace with entropy? Not in a defeatist way, but in the way a sailor makes peace with the sea. The sea is not malevolent, it is powerful and indifferent. The sailor learns to sail with its forces. Entropy isn't an error in the universe, it's a fundamental rule. Our peace comes not from building eternally sandcastles against the tide, but from learning the profound beauty of the temporary castle, the joy of the building itself, and the humility of watching it return to the sea. The lack we feel is the pain of clinging to a form that, by nature's law, must change. This is the heart of the Buddha's teaching on impermanence, anicca. Suffering, dukkha, which includes that feeling of lack and unsatisfactoriness, arises from clinging, tanha, to what is inherently impermanent. We cling to youth, to possessions, to status, to particular life circumstances. When they change, as they must, we feel that something essential is missing. The path to freedom isn't to stop the change, that's impossible. It's to change our relationship to change itself. To see the flowing nature of all things not as a threat to our security, but as the very essence of aliveness. A frozen river is secure, but dead. A flowing river is constantly changing, but it is vibrant, singing, alive. Your life is the river. The feeling of something missing is often just the shock of hitting a rock, the resistance to the inevitable current. Let go of the rock. Let the current carry you. The river knows where it's going. To illustrate, let's visit a master maple syrup maker in Vermont. His entire livelihood depends on a narrow window of time. The sugar run, in early spring, when nights are freezing and days are thawing. The sap only flows under these specific, transient conditions. He can't force it. He can't make it permanent. He can only prepare, pay exquisite attention, and be ready to receive the gift when it comes. He once told me, "People think I'm waiting for the sap. But really, I'm practicing the wait. Learning how to be in the uncertainty." The syrup is sweet, but the real lesson is in the bare branches and the cold mud. His lack of control over the process has taught him a deep, seasonal patience. His restlessness during the long winter isn't a problem, it's part of the cycle, the necessary dormancy before the flow. He doesn't resent the time when the sap isn't running, he knows it's essential. Can we see the fallow periods in our own lives, the times of waiting, uncertainty, or diminished outward productivity, not as evidence of lack, but as necessary dormancy? As the ground gathering nutrients for the next season of growth, the feeling that something is missing might simply be the quiet of the roots at work underground, out of sight. We are so conditioned to value the bloom, the harvest, the syrup. We devalue the root growth, the composting, the waiting. Yet, without these, the bloom is impossible. What if you are not in a season of lack, but in a season of essential, invisible preparation? What if the restlessness itself is the sap beginning to stir in your veins, sensing the coming thaw? You don't need to force the flow. You just need to trust the season you're in, and be ready with your bucket when the time is right. Let's shift our gaze from the vast landscapes of desert and forest to the intricate world within a single drop of water. Under a microscope, a droplet from a pond becomes a universe, swirling with microorganisms, particles of life dancing in a tiny sphere. What appears simple, uniform, even empty, to the naked eye is, upon closer inspection, teeming with activity and complexity. Your present moment, your current state of being, is that drop of water. On the surface, it might feel ordinary, still, or lacking. But what if you could adjust the focus of your attention, not outward to a new horizon, but inward to a deeper resolution of the reality already here? The feeling of something missing might simply be a symptom of looking at your life with a macroscopic gaze, seeing only the bland surface, missing the vibrant, intricate cosmos contained within the ordinary. This is the practice of micro-awareness. Instead of seeking a new experience, you dive deeper into the one you're having. You're drinking a cup of tea. At the macroscopic level, it's just having tea. At the microscopic level of attention, it is. The warmth spreading through the ceramic into your palms, the faint steam curling and dissolving, the complex flavor notes unfolding on your tongue, perhaps floral, perhaps earthy, perhaps bittersweet, the sensation of the liquid moving down your throat, the slight pause and sigh afterward. In this deepened attention, the act is no longer mundane, it is a rich, sensory event. There is no room for the story of lack, because the channel of awareness is completely occupied with the fullness of what is. The seeker dissolves into the experience. You are not a person drinking tea, you are the drinking, the warmth, the flavor, happening. A musician friend described this to me in terms of sound. When he first learned guitar, he heard chords, big blocks of sound. As he advanced, he began to hear the individual strings within the chord, their interplay. At a master level, he could hear the subtle overtones, the resonance of the wood, the minute variations in finger pressure. The same chord that once sounded simple now revealed itself as a galaxy of sonic detail. His appreciation, his sense of fulfillment in playing, didn't come from learning more chords, but from learning to listen more deeply to the ones he already knew. Our lives are like that chord. We keep searching for new chords, new relationships, jobs, hobbies, thinking the next one will finally sound right. But the sense of lack may just be a listening issue. We are hearing only the broadest, most generalized frequency of our experience. The richness is there, in the overtones, in the resonances, in the spaces between the notes. The practice is to become a more refined listener to the life you already possess. Now, let's visit a cartographer in Lisbon during the Age of Discovery. His name was Diogo, and his workshop was filled with half-finished maps, sketches of coastlines from sailors' logs, and vast, terrifying areas marked only as "Hic sunt dragons," here be dragons. His life's work was to turn the unknown into the known, to replace the dragons with accurate shorelines. Yet, the more he mapped, the more he realized the true scale of the unknown. The known world was a small island in a sea of dragon-filled blankness. He felt a profound anxiety. The anxiety of the finite mind confronting the infinite. One evening, staring at a particularly blank section of the globe, he had a sudden insight. The dragons were not the problem. The problem was his belief that every space needed to be filled with known territory. What if the blank spaces were essential? What if they were not voids to be feared, but possibilities to be honored? What if "Here be dragons" was the most honest and exciting thing you could write on a map? He began to leave small, deliberate blanks in his maps, with no dragons, just empty space. They became his favorite parts. They represented humility, mystery, and the open future. Our inner feeling of lack is often our personal, hic sunt dragons. We have mapped the familiar territories of our habits, our roles, our routines. But there are blank spaces within us, unexplored potentials, unlived dreams, unexpressed emotions. We fear these blanks. We label them dragons. Here be failure, here be madness, here be disappointment. So we avoid them, and in avoiding them, we feel a lack, because we are denying huge portions of our own inner continent. The journey toward wholeness isn't about filling every blank. It's about changing your relationship to the blankness itself. It's about having the courage to sail toward your own dragons, not to slay them, but to discover they were never dragons at all, just undiscovered aspects of yourself, waiting in the fog. This connects to Carl Jung's concept of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress, deny, or deem unacceptable. The energy used to keep these aspects in the dark is immense. The feeling of something missing can be the psychic weight of this repression, the ghost of the unlived life knocking at the door. Integration, not elimination, is the path. To gently, compassionately, bring light to those blank spaces on your inner map, not to colonize them with judgment, but to simply say, this too belongs. When you acknowledge your anger, your fear, your laziness, your grandiose dreams, you reclaim the energy spent hiding them. That reclaimed energy feels like vitality, like presence. The black begins to fill, not with something new from outside, but with parts of yourself returning home. I witnessed a beautiful example of this in an unlikely setting, a community theater group putting on a play. A quiet, meticulous accountant named Ben was cast, to his own horror, in the role of a flamboyant, loud-mouthed pirate. He was terrified. It felt completely alien, ridiculous. In early rehearsals, he was stiff, his voice a whisper. The director didn't try to make him a better pirate. She simply said, "Find the Ben within the pirate. Where in your life do you wish you could be more bold? Where do you feel captive by rules? Let the pirate say those things." Slowly, Ben began to tap into his own repressed sense of rebellion, his own hidden flamboyance. He wasn't pretending to be someone else, he was giving a sanctioned voice to a part of himself that had always been there, silent. On opening night, he was transformed, not into a different person, but into a more complete version of himself. The standing ovation he received was for his courage as much as his performance. He told me afterward, "I spent my life feeling like I was missing a certain kind of confidence. I wasn't missing it. I had just put it in a box and labeled it, forbidden. The pirate's costume was just the key to the lock." Your sense of lack might be pointing you toward a box in your own psychic attic. What's inside might surprise you. Let's travel conceptually to the field of ecology, to the idea of a keystone species. This is a species, like the sea otter or the wolf, whose presence is disproportionately important to the health of its entire ecosystem. Remove the keystone, and the system collapses into a simpler, less diverse, less resilient state. I propose that within your own psyche, there are keystone states of being. Presence might be one. Self-compassion might be another. Curiosity. When these are absent from your inner ecosystem, the whole system feels off, less resilient, less diverse, less vibrant. You feel a pervasive lack, but you can't pinpoint it because it's not a missing thing, it's a missing quality of being. You might try to add more things, more friends, more projects, but the ecosystem remains unstable because the keystone is still missing. The work, then, is to identify and reintroduce the keystone. This is often a gentle, foundational practice, 10 minutes of silent sitting to reintroduce presence. A few moments of speaking kindly to yourself after a mistake to reintroduce self-compassion. Asking, "I wonder why," instead of, "I know why," to reintroduce curiosity. These practices don't add new content to your life, they change the fundamental quality of the container holding your life. When the keystone is back in place, the entire inner ecosystem can flourish, and the feeling of lack often recedes on its own. Now, consider the humble potato. Before the 16th century, it was unknown in Europe. When Sir Walter Raleigh first brought it to England, people were suspicious. They tried eating the leaves and berries, which are poisonous, and got sick. They declared the plant useless, dangerous. It was only when they looked beneath the surface, to the unseen tubers growing in the dark earth, that they found one of the most nutritious, sustaining food sources on the planet. It revolutionized agriculture and alleviated famines. Your answer, the nourishment you seek, might not be in the visible, obvious places, the shiny leaves and berries of social approval, conventional success, or purchased experiences. It might be growing quietly in the dark, rich soil of your unnoticed inner world, in your quiet resilience, your forgotten dreams, your capacity for patience, your unexpressed creativity. You've been looking for fruit in the wrong place. The feeling of lack is the hunger pang. The solution isn't to keep nibbling on poisonous leaves, it's to have the courage to dig. A powerful tool for this digging is the practice of journaling, not as a diary of events, but as an archaeological dig into your own psyche. Write without editing, without purpose. Let the pen move. You might be astonished at what surfaces from the dark soil of your subconscious, a memory, a fear, a wild idea, a long-forgotten joy. These are your psychic tubers. They may not look glamorous, but they hold immense sustenance. The act of writing them down, of bringing them into the light of awareness, is an act of harvesting your own inner nourishment. The feeling of something missing often abates when we regularly engage in this process of inner harvest, realizing we are far richer, deeper, and more resourceful than our surface-level thinking admits. Finally, for this part, let's reflect on the phenomenon of sonic crystals, or acoustic metamaterials. These are specially engineered structures that can bend, shape, or even completely block sound waves. They create zones of silence in the midst of noise. Your mind, with its endless stream of thoughts, criticisms, and desires, is a noisy place. The feeling of lack is one of the loudest, most persistent frequencies in that noise. Mindfulness and meditation could be seen as the process of engineering sonic crystals within your own awareness. You are not trying to stop all thoughts, an impossible task. You are learning to structure your attention in such a way that the chaotic noise of mental chatter, including the lack frequency, passes through you without being amplified, without trapping you in its resonance. You create a silent, still center within the storm. In that cultivated inner silence, you can hear something else, the background hum of existence itself, which is not a lack, but a profound, peaceful fullness. The lack was never in your life, it was in the distorted, noisy resonance chamber of unchecked thought. By restructuring your relationship to thought, seeing thoughts as passing weather, not absolute truth, you create pockets of peace where the feeling of lack simply cannot gain a foothold. You are not just a listener to the noise. You are the architect of the space in which the noise occurs. You can design for resonance with chaos, or you can design for resonance with peace. The choice is made 1,000 times a day, in the tiny, unnoticed decisions of where you place your attention. We've explored the idea that what we seek might be hidden in plain sight, buried not in distant lands but in the depths of our current moment. Now, let's consider the frame through which we view our entire world. A story is told of a medieval stained glass artisan in Chartres, France. For decades, he worked on the cathedral's great rose window, piecing together fragments of colored glass into a masterpiece depicting the Last Judgment. His eyes grew weak, his hands stiff. One afternoon, a young apprentice found him not at his workbench, but sitting in a pew in the empty, dim cathedral. The sun was setting, and its last rays streamed through the very window the old man had built. A kaleidoscope of colored light, ruby, sapphire, emerald, painted the stone floor and the old man's weary face. The apprentice asked, "Master, why do you sit here? Are you not tired of looking at your own work?" The master artisan did not turn. He said, softly, "For 40 years, I looked at the glass. I studied its cracks, its flaws, its leading. I judged it. Today, for the first time, I am letting the glass look through me." He had shifted from being the critic of the creation to being the vessel for its light. Our feeling of lack often stems from the first perspective. We are forever looking at our lives, judging its pieces, finding flaws, comparing it to other windows we imagine. The peace we seek arrives with the second perspective, when we allow life to look through us. When we become a clear enough presence that the ordinary light of an ordinary day can pass through us and reveal its hidden, sacred colors. This is the shift from egocentric awareness to ecocentric awareness. The ego is the artisan at the bench, constantly evaluating, managing, and trying to improve the self project. It is inherently restless because the project is never finished, never perfect. The ecocentric or awareness-centric view is the artisan on the bench, receiving. It is not a project, it is a phenomenon. It is the experience of being alive, conscious, and permeable. In this state, you don't have a life, you are life, happening. The search for something more ceases because you are fully identified with the ongoing event of existence, not with a small, separate character within it. Let's bring this into the realm of modern physics, with the concept of quantum superposition. At a subatomic level, a particle like an electron exists in a cloud of potential, a superposition of all its possible states, until it is observed. The act of observation, of measurement, collapses the wave function into a single, definite state. In a poetic, non-literal sense, our attention works similarly on our experience. The present moment is a superposition of infinite potentials. It is boring, it is fascinating, it is lacking, it is abundant, it is stressful, it is peaceful. The observation of our thinking mind, particularly a mind conditioned by lack, collapses that wave of potential into a definite experience of not enough. We literally materialize the lack through the focus of our attention. The practice of mindfulness is the practice of holding that observational power lightly, of not collapsing the wave too quickly into a story of deficiency. It is allowing the moment to remain a little longer in its state of pure potential, where it contains all possibilities, including the possibility of wholeness. When you can rest in that open, non-judgmental awareness, the moment often collapses not into lack, but into simple, suchness, the isness of things, which is complete in itself. I recall a powerful personal moment that illustrated this. I was stuck in a long, stressful traffic jam on a highway, late for an appointment. My mind was a torrent of frustration, planning, self-recrimination. The feeling of lack was acute, lack of time, lack of control, lack of peace. Then, for no reason, my attention shifted from the story about the traffic to the sensory reality of the traffic. The steady, hypnotic pattern of red brake light stretching into the distance like a strange, electronic river. The low, collective rumble of idling engines. The way the sinking sun glinted off 100 windshields, turning the scene into a field of scattered diamonds. In that shift, the frustration didn't vanish, but it was enveloped in a larger, more interesting, almost beautiful phenomenon. I was no longer a frustrated person in traffic, I was awareness, witnessing the fascinating, slow-moving ritual of a modern traffic jam. The lack dissolved because I was no longer measuring the experience against my personal agenda. I had, for a moment, let the traffic look through me. And it was strangely peaceful. Now, let's visit a different kind of workshop, that of a master perfumer in Grasse, France. Her life was dedicated to isolating and combining aromatic molecules to create fragrances. She worked with a nose organ, a vast wall of hundreds of small bottles containing essential oils, absolutes, and aroma chemicals. She told me that the most common mistake of an apprentice is olfactory fatigue. When you smell too many strong scents in succession, your nose becomes overwhelmed and numb. You can no longer distinguish the delicate top note of bergamot from the heart of jasmine. The only cure is fresh air. To step away into a scentless void so that the nose can reset and once again perceive nuance. Our minds suffer from a similar fatigue, an existential fatigue. We have taken in too many experiences, too many desires, too many comparisons, too many fragments of information without integration. Our inner perceptive faculty becomes numb. We can no longer distinguish the subtle fragrance of a quiet joy from the pungent smell of anxiety. Everything blurs into a background noise of not quite right. The feeling of something missing is often this olfactory fatigue of the soul. The cure is not more scent. It is the fresh air of silence. It is stepping away from the relentless stimulation of thought and external input, and allowing the mind to rest in neutral, to reset its capacity to discern. In that emptiness, your sensitivity returns. You can suddenly smell the rain coming. You can taste the complexity in a piece of bread. You can feel the simple, unadorned satisfaction of being alive. The lack was never in the world, it was in the fatigued instrument you were using to perceive it. This is why all contemplative traditions prioritize silence, solitude, and Sabbath. It's not an escape from life. It is maintenance on the instrument of perception. It's cleaning the lens so you can see clearly again that the world was always here, shining, waiting for you to truly see it. Consider the humble seed again, but from a different angle. A seed contains not just the blueprint for a plant, but also a small package of stored energy, the endosperm. To fuel its initial growth until it can reach light and make its own food. That stored energy is finite. If the seed expends it all trying to grow in the wrong direction, against a rock, in total darkness, it will die before it ever reaches the surface. Its imperative is to use that precious energy only when conditions are right, and to grow toward the light with unwavering focus. You have a similar store of psychic and spiritual energy. The feeling of lack can arise when you are spending this precious energy wildly, trying to grow in all directions at once, pursuing social validation, material success, romantic ideals, intellectual achievements, without a coherent direction toward your own inner light. You feel empty because you are exhausting your reserves on projects that don't truly nourish your core being. The answer is conservation and direction. To pull back from frantic, scattered growth and ask, where is my light? What activity, when I do it, makes me feel more energized, not less? What connection feels nourishing? What quiet truth resonates? Then, with great care, spend your energy growing in that direction. The lack transforms into focused potential. This is echoed in the concept of essentialism, popularized by Greg McKeown. It's the disciplined pursuit of less but better. It's asking, is this the most important thing I should be doing with my time and energy right now? It's recognizing that trying to do everything results in doing nothing well and feeling perpetually drained and unfulfilled. The feeling of lack is the diffuse ache of trying to be everywhere at once. The feeling of fullness is the deep satisfaction of being fully present where you have chosen to be. Let's listen to a story from the world of deep-sea exploration. A marine biologist was using a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, to explore the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. On the monitors in the ship, the landscape was otherworldly, barren, gray sediment, immense pressure, eternal darkness. It seemed desolate. Then, the ROV's lights swept across a hydrothermal vent. Suddenly, the screen exploded with life, giant tube worms in vibrant red plumes, strange blind shrimp, fields of unique bacteria, all thriving in a toxic, boiling, sunless environment. The biologist later said, "We went looking for emptiness and found one of the most densely packed, vibrant ecosystems on the planet. Life wasn't lacking, it was everywhere. We just had to know where to look, and have the right tools to see it." Your inner world has its own Mariana Trenches, places of pressure, darkness, and what you assume is barrenness. You avoid them. You think, nothing good can be there. That's just my depression, my anger, my fear. But what if you sent the gentle, non-judgmental light of your attention into those depths? You might not find what you expect. You might find an ecosystem of incredible resilience and adaptation thriving in conditions you thought were hostile to life. Your anger might hold a fierce passion for justice. Your sadness might be the deep waters of your capacity for love. Your fear might be the intelligent scout trying to protect you. The feeling of a lack of goodness or peace in those areas may simply be because you haven't illuminated them with compassionate curiosity. When you do, you discover that wholeness includes everything, even the parts you wished were otherwise. This is the alchemical promise: lead into gold. Not by rejecting the lead, but by understanding it at such a deep level that its true, hidden nature is revealed. Your so-called flaws, your weaknesses, your darkest moods. They are not mistakes to be eliminated. They are the raw materials of your unique wholeness, waiting for the transformative light of your own acceptance. Finally, reflect on the simple act of tuning a musical instrument. A string is either sharp, too tight, or flat, too loose. The tuner listens for the wobble, the dissonant beat frequency between the note played and the true note. That wobble is the feeling of being out of tune. The musician doesn't smash the instrument. She makes a subtle adjustment, a tiny turn of the peg to loosen or tighten. The feeling of something missing in your life is that wobble. It's the dissonance between how you are living and your intrinsic pitch, your true note. The solution isn't to throw the instrument away, your life, or to play louder to cover the wobble, distraction. It's to become a finer listener to your own dissonance, and then to make the subtle, internal adjustments of attention, intention, and value that bring you back into harmony with yourself. The note of you is already perfect. You just have to tune the instrument of your daily life to match it. And tuning is a practice, not a one-time fix. It requires constant, gentle listening and adjustment. The beautiful part is that the wobble itself, the feeling of lack, is your guide. It is the tuner's ear, telling you exactly which way to turn the peg. You are both the instrument and the musician. The feeling of lack is not the sound of a broken instrument. It is the sensitive ear of the musician, hearing the potential for a more beautiful song. Honor that ear. It is your path to harmony. We've been exploring the nature of the search itself, how we look, where we look, and the frames we use. Now, let's consider the profound power of what we are not seeking. There's a story from the early days of radio astronomy. Scientists built enormous dishes to listen to the cosmos, hoping to hear signals from distant stars, perhaps even signs of intelligence. For years, they heard mostly static, the background hiss of the universe. Two researchers, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, at Bell Labs, were plagued by a persistent, uniform noise in their giant horn antenna. They scrubbed the antenna of pigeon droppings, checked every connection, eliminated every earthly source. The noise remained. It was an annoyance, a flaw in their data, something they desperately tried to remove so they could hear the real signals. Eventually, they realized this noise was not a flaw. It was the cosmic microwave background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, the oldest light in the universe. What they were trying to eliminate was the most important discovery imaginable, the echo of creation itself. They had won the Nobel Prize for what they initially thought was garbage data. Your persistent inner noise, that low-grade hum of restlessness, that background static of, is this all there is? What if it's not garbage data? What if, in your frantic efforts to clean it up, silence it, or explain it away with psychological pigeon droppings, you are missing its true significance? This noise might not be a problem with your reception. It might be the baseline hum of your own conscious existence, the afterglow of your own awakening potential. It is the signal that you are alive, sensitive, and tuned to a frequency that picks up more than just the obvious broadcasts of daily life. It is the cosmic background radiation of your soul. The moment you stop trying to eliminate it and instead listen to it with curiosity, everything changes. You are no longer a frustrated technician, you are an astronomer on the verge of a monumental discovery about the nature of your own being. This reframes the entire spiritual quest. We often seek special, elevated states, peaks of bliss, clarity, or peace. We want the strong, clear signal from an enlightened star. And we treat our ordinary, static-filled consciousness as worthless interference. But the deepest truth might be broadcasting not on a special channel, but as the ever-present hum beneath all channels. Your ordinary awareness, with all its doubts, its boredom, its subtle ache, is not the obstacle to enlightenment. It is the very field in which enlightenment would be recognized. The static isn't blocking the music, the static is the music of the spheres, played at a frequency we're only just learning to hear. Let's bring this down to earth with a story from a small town in Italy, known for its violin makers. A young apprentice, Luca, was struggling. He could carve the scroll, shape the ribs, but when it came to applying the varnish, the final, magical layer that gives a Stradivarius its legendary voice, his instruments fell silent. They were beautiful but tonally dead. He worked harder, studied more chemical formulas, applied the varnish with more precision. Nothing. In despair, he went to the old master, who simply took one of Luca's unfinished violins and carried it outside. He didn't varnish it. He hung it from a tree in his garden. "Leave it," he said. "Let the sun warm it. Let the night dew settle on it. Let the wind move through its empty body. Come back in a year." Luca was baffled but obeyed. For a year, the bare wood of the violin seasoned in the elements. When he brought it back in, the master finally applied the varnish. The instrument, when strung, sang with a voice that brought tears to Luca's eyes. It had depth, resonance, a living quality. The master said, "You thought the secret was in the finish. The secret is in the wood's memory of the sky, the patience of the tree, and the time spent doing nothing but being exposed to life. The varnish just seals in what the world has already whispered into it." We are like that violin. We rush to apply the finish. The accomplishments, the identities, the curated personalities, thinking that's what will make us sing. But the true resonance comes from the seasoning, from the time spent exposed to life itself, unvarnished, undefended, simply letting the elements of experience, joy, sorrow, boredom, wonder, work upon our raw material. The feeling of lack is the sound of an unseasoned instrument. It's not asking for more varnish, more achievements, more validation. It's asking for exposure. For patience. For the courage to hang in the tree of your own life, unfinished, and let the weather of existence season you. This connects to the psychological importance of integration. Trauma therapy, for instance, isn't about deleting painful memories. It's about allowing the frozen, unprocessed experience to finally season in the safe, compassionate light of present moment awareness, so it can be integrated into the narrative of the self, losing its toxic power. Our everyday lacks and discomforts are minor versions of this. We try to varnish over them with positivity or distraction. But true healing, true resonance, comes from allowing them space in our awareness, letting them be felt fully, until they, too, become part of our unique, seasoned timber. Now, consider a principle from architecture and design: form follows function. A building's shape should emerge from its purpose. A bridge is shaped by the need to span a gap with strength. A chair is shaped by the human body's need for support. What is the fundamental function of a human being? Is it to achieve? To acquire? To become happy? Or is it, perhaps, simply to be conscious? To be aware? If form follows function, and our core function is awareness, then our optimal form or way of being should emerge from that. It would be a life shaped by presence, by curiosity, by openness. The feeling of lack arises when we try to force our lives into a form designed for a different function, a form designed for accumulation, for status, for permanent security. We feel cramped, unnatural, out of shape. The peace we seek is the feeling of our lives finally taking the form that matches our true function, conscious presence. When you sit in silent awareness, you are, in that moment, fulfilling your primary function perfectly. No lack can be found there. The anxiety returns when you stand up and try to force the square peg of your true nature into the round hole of a social or personal narrative that values doing over being, having over sensing. I remember watching a documentary about the construction of the Gotthard-based tunnel through the Swiss Alps, the longest railway tunnel in the world. Engineers didn't just drill straight through. They had to account for the immense pressure of the mountain, geological faults, and heat buildup. The tunnel's form, its lining, its ventilation, its gentle curves, was not an arbitrary aesthetic choice. It was a direct, elegant response to the mountain's reality. Your life is the tunnel. Your circumstances, your history, your personality traits are the mountain. The feeling of lack is the strain of trying to drill a straight, rigid, idealized path. I should be like this, have that, be there by now, through the complex, resistant reality of your actual existence. Peace is found when you stop fighting the mountain and let your path be shaped responsively by the terrain. Your unique challenges become the guides for your unique form. Your weaknesses suggest where to reinforce. Your passions indicate the direction. You are not failing to build a straight tunnel, you are succeeding, moment by moment, in building the only tunnel that could possibly go through your mountain. Let's visit a conceptual space, the adjacent possible. Coined by biologist Stuart Kaufman, it describes all the potential innovations, discoveries, or steps that are one move away from the current state of things. It's not the distant, impossible dream. It's the next, plausible, reachable step. Evolution works in the adjacent possible. So does creativity. Your feeling of lack often focuses on the distant dream, the perfect version of you, living a perfect life, far from here. That focus can be paralyzing. But your freedom, your growth, exists in the adjacent possible of this moment. Not, how do I become enlightened, but what is one slightly more conscious breath I can take right now? Not, how do I find my life's purpose, but what small, meaningful action is within my reach today? The adjacent possible is always rich, always available. By focusing there, the overwhelming sense of lack associated with the distant horizon diminishes. You become an explorer of the fertile frontier immediately around you, and in that exploration, you are fulfilled. You are no longer lacking a distant future, you are engaging fully with the creative edge of your present. A story from the world of mathematics illustrates the danger of overlooking the adjacent possible. The ancient Greeks had a deep understanding of geometry, but their mathematics was largely static, concerned with perfect forms and ratios. It took centuries for the development of calculus, which deals with dynamic change, with curves, motion, and flow. The Greeks were looking for the perfect circle. They missed the adjacent possible of studying the process of circling. We do the same. We seek perfect states, perfect happiness, perfect peace, perfect love, static endpoints. We miss the adjacent possible of studying the process, the flow, the dynamic change that is actually the substance of life. The feeling of lack is the grief for a static perfection that doesn't exist. The feeling of fullness is found in engaging with the fascinating, imperfect, ever-changing calculus of your own experience. Finally, ponder the phenomenon of fixation in vision. To see an object clearly, your eyes must focus its image precisely on the retina's fovea, the area of sharpest vision. But if you fixate on one point for too long without moving your eyes, the image will actually fade and disappear due to neural adaptation. To keep seeing, you must make tiny, involuntary movements called microsaccades. Constant, minute refreshing of the visual field is necessary for sustained sight. Your awareness works similarly. If you fixate rigidly on one idea of how your life should be, one goal, one self-image, one definition of success, your experience of that life will eventually fade, go numb, feel lacking. The microsaccades of awareness are the small, gentle movements of curiosity, of turning towards something new in your environment, of questioning your own assumptions, of allowing a change in perspective. The practice of mindfulness isn't a rigid fixation on the breath. It's a relaxed, gentle noticing that naturally includes the breath, then a sound, then a sensation, then the breath again. A graceful, microsaccadic dance of attention that keeps the whole field of experience alive and vivid. Your feeling of lack might simply be a signal that you have been fixating too long on a single, narrow point of expectation. It's an invitation to let your attention dance again, to look softly around the edges of your life, to notice what you've been overlooking because you were staring so hard at what you thought you wanted to see. You are not a camera mounted on a tripod, forced to stare at one scene. You are the living eye, endowed with the gift of movement. The whole panorama is yours. The lack is in the fixation. The wholeness is in the gentle, wandering gaze. We have ventured through the landscapes of perception, the nature of seeking, and the wisdom hidden in what we try to avoid. Now, let's turn our attention to one of the most powerful, yet misunderstood, forces in human experience, longing. Not as a symptom of disease, but as the very engine of evolution. In the high Andes, there is a species of bamboo that flowers only once every 65 to 120 years. For decades, it appears to be just a clump of ordinary green stalks. Then, in a synchronized event across entire forests, it explodes in a mass flowering, produces seeds, and dies. Botanists call this gregarious flowering. The plant spends almost a century gathering resources, waiting, preparing for that one explosive moment of expression and reproduction. The longing built into its DNA is not for constant bloom, but for a patience so profound it spans human lifetimes. Your own sense of longing, that deep, sometimes painful pull towards something unnamed, might not be a sign of impatience or lack. It might be the slow, gathering rhythm of your own gregarious flowering. You are not behind schedule. You are in the long, quiet season of root building, of gathering the resources for a blossoming whose timing is written in a wisdom deeper than your daily anxieties. This reframes the ache entirely. We treat longing as a problem to be solved by immediate gratification. We try to scratch the itch with a new purchase, a new relationship, a new belief. But what if the itch is not meant to be scratched? What if it's meant to be listened to as a directional signal, a compass needle trembling toward true north? The pain of longing is often the friction between the soul's deep time rhythm and the mind's frantic, short-term clock. The soul says, prepare. The mind says, produce. The feeling of lack is the conflict between these two time signatures. Consider the migratory patterns of the monarch butterfly. A single butterfly, weighing less than a gram, will travel thousands of miles from Canada to a specific mountain forest in Mexico it has never seen, guided by an inherited map written in sunlight and magnetic fields. It is not seeking in the way we understand seeking. It is following a deep, encoded longing for a place it knows on a cellular level. It doesn't doubt. It doesn't wonder if there's a better forest. It is pulled. Your spiritual longing may be like that. It may not be a desire for a specific thing, but a homing instinct. A pull toward a state of being, wholeness, peace, authenticity, that is your psychic Mexico. The restlessness is the feeling of being off course, of sensing the pull but fighting it with doubt, with detours, with clinging to comfortable but off-route way stations. The peace comes not when you arrive, for the butterfly, arrival is also the prelude to death. But when you stop fighting the pull and align your tiny wings with the vast, invisible currents that are already carrying you home. I think of a conversation with an oceanographer who studied whales. He described how baleen whales, like the humpback, will swim from fertile feeding grounds in the polar regions to warm, barren breeding lagoons thousands of miles away. They fast for months during this journey and in the lagoons. From a caloric, utilitarian perspective, it makes no sense. Why leave plenty for scarcity? But the drive to complete this cycle is irresistible. It is a longing written into the very fabric of their being, essential to their survival as a species. Our own journeys from plenty, material comfort, busyness, to scarcity, quiet, introspection, vulnerability, may look irrational to the utilitarian mind. But they may be essential to the survival of our soul. The feeling of lack in the midst of plenty. The strange emptiness at the party, the disconnection during success, might be the soul's version of the whale's instinct, telling you it is time to make the long swim to a different kind of water, even if it looks like a barren lagoon on the surface. Trust the migration. Now, let's look at longing through the lens of physics again, specifically the idea of potential energy. A boulder perched on a cliff edge has high potential energy. The energy is not active, not kinetic, but it is real, stored in its position relative to gravity. Longing is potential energy of the soul. It is not yet action, not yet manifestation, but it is a real force, a tension between where you are and where you sense you could be. The problem arises when we misinterpret this potential energy as a sign that something is wrong with our current position. We want to discharge the tension immediately, often in misguided ways. But the potential energy itself is not the enemy. It is the fuel for your journey. The boulder's potential energy becomes useful when it's channeled, rolled down a carefully constructed track to power a mill, for instance. Your longing becomes useful when you stop trying to make it disappear and start asking, toward what higher ground is this tension pulling me? How can I channel this energy into constructive growth? The lack is the feeling of unused potential. The fulfillment is in the graceful, deliberate channeling of that force. This leads us to the Japanese concept of ikigai, your reason for being, the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Often presented as a Venn diagram for life purpose, its deeper teaching is about alignment. Longing is the sensation of misalignment. It's the psychic equivalent of a car's wheels being out of balance. The vehicle moves, but there's a troubling vibration. Ikigai is the state of perfect balance, where the vibration stops because all forces are aligned. Finding it isn't always about a grand career change. It can be about aligning your moment-to-moment actions with your values, your attention with your intention. You can find ikigai in washing a dish perfectly, in listening completely, in a small act of unnoticed kindness. The feeling of lack diminishes in proportion to how aligned your awareness is with your action. Let's visit a story from the world of forestry, about wolf trees. In a dense forest, a wolf tree is an old, large, often misshapen tree with wide-spreading limbs. It gained its dominance because it grew in an open field long before the forest grew up around it. Now, surrounded by younger, straighter trees competing for light, it seems out of place, inefficient. A forester might see it as taking up space that could support more timber. But ecologists see its vital role. Its vast canopy provides habitat for birds and insects, its complex structure supports mosses and lichens, its nuts feed animals, and its very inefficiency creates pockets of light and diversity in the uniform forest. Your own sense of being out of place, of not fitting the efficient, productive mold of those around you, might not be a lack. You might be a wolf tree. Your value isn't in your straight timber for the mill of conventional success. Your value is in the unique ecosystem you support, the complexity of your relationships, the shade of your presence for others, the unique habitat of your mind. The longing to be a straight pine in a straight forest is the real lack. The peace comes in recognizing and embracing your own, irreplaceable wolf tree nature. This is a celebration of neurodiversity, of introversion, of unconventional life paths. The system often pathologizes the wolf tree as less than. But the forest's health depends on diversity. The feeling of lack, in this case, is the internalized voice of the forester, not the truth of the tree. Now, ponder a principle from systems theory: the map is not the territory. This phrase, coined by Alfred Korzybski, reminds us that our mental models of reality, our beliefs, our self-concepts, our plans, are simplified representations, not the rich, messy, complex territory of actual lived experience. The feeling of lack often arises in the gap between the map and the territory. Your map says, by 35, I should be married, have a house, and be director of my department. The territory of your actual life at 35 is different. You're single, you rent, you're a valued senior contributor. The map says lack. The territory is just territory. It's real, it's specific, it's full of its own textures and truths that the crude map completely misses. The suffering is in clinging to the map and calling the territory wrong. The freedom is in dropping the map and exploring the actual territory with curiosity. You might find wildflowers growing where the map said there should be a highway. You might find a tranquil stream where the map predicted a desert. The territory of your present moment is never lacking. It is only your outdated, inaccurate map that tells you it is. I recall a friend who was a brilliant but perpetually frustrated novelist. He had a detailed map for his career, a major award by 30, a bestseller by 35. The territory involved years of rejection, a small but loyal readership, and a day job he found meaningful. He was miserable, constantly feeling he had failed. Then, his father became ill. He put the novel aside for months to help. In that raw, unmapped territory of caregiving and mortality, he found a depth of experience and connection that his carefully plotted literary map had never included. He returned to writing, not to fulfill the map, but to explore this new territory he had discovered. The book that emerged was entirely different, weaker in plot but profound in humanity. It didn't win the awards on his old map, but it touched readers in a way his previous work never had. He told me, I had to lose the map to find the country I was actually meant to write about. Your lack may be a call to burn your old map and start truly exploring the land you're already standing on. Finally, consider the simple, profound act of fermentation. A jar of cabbage sits in salt water, sealed away from air. For days, nothing seems to happen. Then, beneficial bacteria, present but dormant, begin their work. They consume sugars, producing lactic acid. The environment becomes acidic, preserving the vegetable and transforming it into sauerkraut, something more complex, nutritious, and durable than the original. The jar does nothing but provide the right conditions: salt, water, cabbage, and darkness. The transformation happens on its own, through forces already present. Your inner work is often like setting up the jar. You create the right conditions: silence, patience, self-compassion, honest reflection, and then you seal it with trust. You don't force the transformation. You allow it. The feeling of lack during the "nothing seems to happen" phase is intense. We want to open the jar, stir it, add something. But that would spoil the process. The magic happens in the dark, in the not doing. Your longing itself is part of the brine, creating the environment where transformation can occur. You are not lacking the transformation. You are in the middle of it. The bubbling you feel is not chaos, it's life, doing what life does. Changing, preserving, deepening. You are both the cabbage and the jar. The longing is the salt. The darkness is the trust. And what emerges will be uniquely yours, nourishing, and able to sustain you for the long journey ahead. We've followed longing to its source and found it might be a guide, not a tormentor. Now, let's examine the very space in which all of this, the seeking, the finding, the lack, the fullness, unfolds, the space of your own awareness. Imagine an ancient theater, like the one in Epidaurus, Greece, famed for its perfect acoustics. A whisper on the stage can be heard clearly in the back row. The theater doesn't create the sound. It doesn't judge the play. It simply provides a space of such clarity and resonance that whatever is presented within it is received in its purest form. Your awareness is that theater. Thoughts, sensations, emotions, the feeling of lack itself, these are the actors coming and going on the stage. The problem begins when you, the awareness, get up from your seat in the audience, run onto the stage, and start trying to direct the play, rewrite the lines, or argue with the actors. You become entangled in the drama, forgetting you are the space that holds it all. The feeling of something missing is just a particularly persistent actor delivering a convincing monologue about emptiness. But the theater itself is never empty. It is always perfectly present, perfectly capable of receiving whatever performance is underway. Peace is found not by changing the play, but by returning to your seat in the audience, to the open, spacious awareness that you fundamentally are, and simply watching the performance, knowing you are not the script, not the actor, not the role. You are the silent, luminous space that makes the experience possible. This distinction, between awareness and its content, is perhaps the most important one you can make. Everything you experience is content, sights, sounds, thoughts, feelings. Awareness is the knowing of these things. It is prior to them, untouched by them. A storm can rage on the ocean's surface, the content, but 1,000 feet down, the water is still and clear, awareness. Your suffering is entirely at the surface level of content. Your peace is in the depths of pure awareness. The practice of meditation is not about creating calm content, though that may happen. It is about familiarizing yourself with the calm context, the deep water of awareness itself, so that you can learn to rest there even when the surface is stormy with thoughts of lack or inadequacy. Let's illustrate this with a story from the world of optics. In the 17th century, astronomers were frustrated by the chromatic aberration in their telescopes. The fuzzy, colored halos around stars caused by lenses bending different colors of light at different angles. They built longer and longer telescopes to minimize it, to comical lengths. Then, Isaac Newton had a radical idea. Instead of trying to perfect the refractive lens, he abandoned it. He used a mirror. A parabolic mirror reflects all colors of light at the same angle, bringing them to a clean, clear focus without aberration. The reflective telescope was born. Your thinking mind is like a refractive lens. It takes the pure light of experience and breaks it into separate, colored fragments of thought, memory, and judgment. The thought, "I am lacking," is a chromatic aberration, a distortion created by the lens of conceptual thinking. The practice of turning within is not about building a better, longer thinking lens. It is about discovering the mirror of awareness within you. Awareness doesn't interpret, analyze, or break things apart. It simply reflects what is, in perfect, undistorted clarity. When you rest as awareness, the fuzzy halos of not enough dissolve. You see yourself and your life not through the fractured lens of thought, but in the clear, direct reflection of pure seeing. The lack was an artifact of the instrument you were using, not a property of the light itself. I experienced a simple version of this during a walk after a heavy rain. The path was muddy, covered in puddles. One particularly deep puddle reflected the sky perfectly, a flawless, upside-down blue with scudding white clouds. The reflection was clearer than the actual sky, which was still streaked with gray. The puddle itself was a depression in the dirt, filled with runoff. Yet it could reflect the infinite sky without distortion. My mind in that moment was like the surrounding muddy ground, churned up with thoughts. But the lesson was in the puddle. Even a lowly, temporary, muddy hole can become a perfect mirror if it becomes still and clear. You don't need to become the sky. You just need to become still enough to reflect it. Your awareness, when you allow it to settle, is that puddle. The vastness it can reflect is your true nature. Now, consider a concept from computer science, bit rot, or data degradation. Over time, on storage media, the magnetic or electrical charges that represent data can fade or become misaligned. The ones and zeros become less distinct. The file becomes corrupt, unreadable. Our sense of self is like a file we are constantly reading and rewriting. The data is our collection of memories, beliefs, and self-concepts. Over time, through stress, trauma, or simply the entropy of memory, this data can degrade. We get a corrupted sense of who we are. We feel something is missing, something is off, the file of me won't open properly. We try to fix it by adding new data, new experiences, new achievements, but the corruption might be in the old operating system. The spiritual solution is not to try to recover the corrupted file. It is to realize you are not the file at all. You are the computer. The awareness that can run any program, store any file, but is itself untouched by the data's corruption or clarity. You don't need to repair the story of me. You can simply rest as the vast, silent processing space in which stories arise and fall. From that vantage point, the feeling of a corrupted self is just another piece of data flickering on the screen. Interesting, perhaps, but not who you are. This is the essence of the Buddhist teaching of anatta, or not self. It's not a nihilistic denial of personality. It's a liberating recognition that what you truly are cannot be captured, corrupted, or completed by any story, any feeling, any thought, including the thought, something is missing. Let's travel to a different kind of workshop, that of a master glassblower in Murano, Venice. He works with cristallo, a famously clear, colorless glass. The skill lies in managing temperature and breath. If he blows too soon, the glass shatters. If he waits too long, it becomes rigid and unworkable. There is a precise moment of perfect malleability. He once said, "The secret is not in the breath or the heat. It is in recognizing the moment when the material surrenders to its own nature and becomes ready to take a new form. You do not force it. You collaborate with its readiness. Your own transformation works similarly. You cannot force insight or peace. You create the heat of sincere inquiry and the gentle breath of patience. Then you wait for the inner, material, your habits, your beliefs, your sense of self, to reach that moment of surrender, where it becomes malleable to a new understanding. The feeling of lack is often the friction of trying to blow when the glass is still cold and brittle, or the frustration of waiting when you want the form now. The master doesn't feel lack during the heating or the waiting. He is in intimate dialogue with the process itself. Your spiritual practice is learning to be in that dialogue, to sense the readiness for release, for forgiveness, for a new perspective, and to act, or not act, in harmony with that inner timing. This is why insight often comes in moments of rest, in the shower, on a walk, upon waking. The conscious, striving mind has relaxed its grip, and the inner material has finally reached the temperature where a new shape can form. Now, let's look at a phenomenon from natural history. Fire climax ecosystems, like certain pine forests or prairie lands. These ecosystems require periodic wildfires to thrive. The fire clears out deadwood, releases seeds from pine cones, and returns nutrients to the soil. Suppressing fire leads to a dense, unhealthy, stagnant forest vulnerable to catastrophic burnout. Your psyche has fire climax areas. Periods of intense emotional pain, life upheaval, or the burning away of old identities feel like devastation. You interpret the ash and emptiness as utter lack. But what if this is a necessary ecological cycle of your soul? The fire of crisis burns away the deadwood of outgrown beliefs, releases the seeds of new growth, and clears the ground for a healthier, more resilient inner landscape. The feeling of lack in the aftermath is the barren seeming but fertile ash bed. New life is already stirring beneath, life that couldn't have emerged in the shade of the old, dense forest. If you are in a burned-over place in your life, know this: fire is part of the natural cycle. Don't mistake the necessary clearing for permanent emptiness. Your soul is a prairie, evolved to rise, green and vibrant, from its own ashes. A personal story comes to mind. A few years ago, a project I had poured my heart into for years collapsed suddenly. The sense of failure and emptiness was total. It felt like a scorched earth. For months, I wandered in the ash, feeling a lack of direction, purpose, and confidence. It was only when I stopped trying to replant the same old crop that I noticed the new shoots, a freedom from a label I'd outgrown, a curiosity about paths I'd never considered, a deeper compassion for myself and others who fail. The fire had been brutal, but it made space for a truer, hardier version of myself to emerge. The lack was the ghost of the old forest. The fullness was the open sky now visible above the new meadow. Finally, contemplate the simple act of tuning a radio. Between the clear stations, there is static, a hiss of pure, undifferentiated potential. When you fine-tune the dial, a coherent signal emerges from the noise, music, a voice, a clear transmission. Your mind, throughout the day, is like a dial being turned by circumstance, habit, and emotion. It often rests on frequencies of static. The background anxiety, the ambient dissatisfaction. The feeling of something missing is the sound of being slightly off station. The practices of mindfulness, gratitude, or self-inquiry are ways of gently turning your own inner dial. You're not creating the music, the broadcast of peace, of enoughness, is always transmitting. You are simply adjusting your receiver to pick it up. The static isn't bad, it's the field from which all signals emerge. But you have the power to tune. When you feel lack, don't just listen to the static and despair. Remember, you have a dial. Make a tiny adjustment. Turn toward a thought of gratitude. Tune into the sensation of your breath. Seek the frequency of what is good right now. The clear signal is always there, waiting for you to find it. You are not the static. You are not even the music. You are the listener, endowed with the sacred responsibility and ability to tune. We have explored awareness as the silent theater, the clear mirror, the still puddle. We've seen how longing can be a migration instinct and lack a symptom of misalignment. Now, let's delve into a powerful force that shapes all these experiences: narrative. The stories we tell ourselves. There is an old practice among certain indigenous cultures of the Pacific Northwest called potlatch. In a potlatch, a chief or person of status would demonstrate their wealth and generosity not by accumulating, but by giving it all away in a great feast, often destroying valuable possessions like copper shields or burning piles of blankets. To an outside observer, this looks like creating lack. But within the culture, it was the ultimate act of creating abundance, of social capital, honor, and spiritual standing. The narrative frame completely reversed the meaning of the action. Your feeling of lack is often a potlatch happening inside your mind, but you are using the wrong narrative to interpret it. You are seeing the giving away, the emptiness, the not having, through the lens of a scarcity-based culture that says, more is better. What if your soul is conducting a potlatch? What if it is deliberately burning away old identities, giving away outdated beliefs, creating an empty space not as a tragedy, but as a sacred act of making room for a new kind of wealth that can't be measured in possessions or achievements? The feeling of lack, then, is not a crisis, but a ceremony. You are in the middle of a spiritual potlatch. The fire may be frightening, but it is holy. This shift from a scarcity narrative to an abundance narrative, or better, a sufficiency narrative, is fundamental. The mind conditioned by scarcity sees emptiness and screams danger. The soul understanding its own potlatch sees the same emptiness and whispers, now we can begin. Let's examine this through the lens of mycology, the study of fungi. For centuries, fungi were classified as simple, lower plants. Then scientists discovered the mycorrhizal network, a vast, underground web of fungal filaments connecting the roots of trees and plants in a forest. This network, nicknamed the Wood Wide Web, allows trees to share nutrients, water, and even chemical warnings about pests. The forest is not a collection of separate competitors in a scarcity-based struggle for sunlight and soil. It is a cooperative community, an interdependent neural network. The mother trees even nourish their own seedlings through this web. Your feeling of isolation, of being a separate self struggling alone against scarcity, is the old classification. Seeing yourself as a simple, isolated plant. The deeper truth is that you are already embedded in a mycorrhizal network of being. You are connected to other people, to the natural world, to the flow of life itself, in ways your conscious mind barely perceives. The sense of lack is the feeling of being cut off from this nourishing web. But you cannot be cut off. You can only forget your connection. The practice of compassion, of feeling your feet on the earth, of recognizing the interdependence of all things, is how you remember your place in the network. The nourishment you seek is already flowing. You just have to open your root system to receive it. I remember a man I met in a Veterans Affairs hospital, a former Marine with profound PTSD. He described his inner world as a scorched, silent hill, where nothing grows. He felt an absolute lack of peace, of purpose, of feeling. Therapy was slow. Then, he began volunteering at a community garden for at-risk youth. He didn't talk much. He just showed kids how to turn soil, plant seeds, build raised beds. One day, a tough teenager, struggling with his own demons, brought him a perfectly ripe tomato he'd grown from a seed the veteran had given him. The boy's grin was shy but triumphant. In that moment, the veteran told me, I felt something green push through the ash inside me. It wasn't a dramatic healing. It was a mycorrhizal connection, a tiny, tangible thread of shared growth and care that reconnected him to the web of life. His lack began to fill not from within his own isolated psyche, but through the humble, dirt-covered network of mutual support. Now, consider a principle from quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement. When two particles become entangled, they remain connected regardless of the distance separating them. A change to one instantly affects the other. While not directly applicable to human psychology, it offers a beautiful metaphor. Your feeling of lack might be entangled with something else entirely. It might not be about you in the way you think. It might be entangled with a childhood message you absorbed, with a cultural myth of success, with the unhealed pain of an ancestor, or with a collective anxiety of our time. You are trying to solve the feeling by adjusting your local particle, your job, your relationship, your mood. But the change needs to happen in the entangled field. This is the work of depth psychology, of family systems therapy, of spiritual inquiry, to trace the thread of your lack back to its entangled partner. When you bring awareness to that original source, for example, realizing, this feeling of never being good enough is not mine, it's my father's fear that I inherited, the entanglement can loosen. The localized feeling of lack loses its compulsive power. You see it as a signal from a distant star, not as the truth of your present sky. Let's visit a story from the archives of exploration. Before the true source of the Nile was discovered, European cartographers, based on ancient texts and rumors, often drew vast, non-existent mountain ranges in Central Africa, labeled Mountains of the Moon, as the river's origin. Explorers spent years, and sometimes their lives, searching for these phantom mountains. The feeling of lack can be like that. You are searching for the mountains of the moon, a mythical, external source of fulfillment that your cultural or personal narrative has told you must exist. If I just find the right partner, the mountain, then I'll feel complete, the Nile will flow. Meanwhile, the true source of the Nile, the complex interplay of countless springs, swamps, and rainfall in Lake Victoria, was humble, diffuse, and already present. The true source of your fulfillment is not a single, mythical external thing. It is the diffuse, humble, already present interplay of simple conditions, breath, presence, small acts of kindness, moments of authentic connection, the acceptance of what is. You are searching the continent for a phantom mountain range, while the water of life is already pooling at your feet. This is why, Seek and You Shall Find, has a paradoxical second act. You must seek sincerely until you exhaust the search for external mountains. Only then can you turn around and notice the lake you've been standing beside the whole time. A concept from engineering offers another angle, tolerance stacking. In manufacturing, each part of an assembly has a tiny, acceptable margin of error, or tolerance. But if every part is at the extreme edge of its tolerance in the same direction, the errors stack up, and the entire assembly fails to fit or function. Your life is an assembly of countless parts. Your physical health, your relationships, your work, your finances, your inner state. You might be managing, keeping each part within a tolerable range of stress or dissatisfaction. But if they all drift toward their negative tolerance limit at once, work is stressful, sleep is poor, a relationship is strained, you feel uninspired, the errors stack up. The entire system of you feels like it's failing, creaking, not fitting together. The resulting feeling is a profound, generalized lack. The solution isn't necessarily a massive overhaul. It's a gentle, systematic recentering of each part back toward its optimal range. A little more sleep. A difficult conversation to ease relational friction. A few minutes of genuine rest. You don't need to find a whole new life. You need to adjust the tolerances on the one you have. The lack is the alarm bell of stacked tolerances. Listen to it not as a verdict, but as a precise diagnostic tool. Finally, contemplate the ancient and universal symbol of the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. It represents cyclicality, self-sufficiency, and the eternal return. The feeling of lack is the sensation of being a line, not a circle, a line with a beginning, birth, and an end, death, with a gap somewhere in the middle that needs to be filled to reach the end satisfactorily. But what if your true nature is the Ouroboros? What if you are already complete, the consumption and the producer, the seeker and the sought, the lack and the fulfillment, in one endless, self-sustaining loop? From this perspective, the feeling of lack is just one point on the circle, the point where the serpent opens its mouth. It feels like an emptiness, a need. But it is the very gesture that allows the circle to complete itself, to be nourished by its own being. Your dissatisfaction is not a flaw. It is the mechanism of your own regeneration. It is the mouth of the serpent, not a wound. Without that opening, the circle would be static, dead. Your longing is what keeps you alive, moving, transforming. The goal is not to seal the mouth, but to recognize it as part of the beautiful, necessary circle of your own becoming. You are not a line seeking an endpoint. You are a circle, already whole, perpetually nourishing yourself with your own experience. The feeling of lack is just you, biting your tail to begin the feast again. We have seen lack as a ceremony, a connection, a tuning issue, and part of a circle. Now, let's examine the ground from which both lack and fulfillment grow, choice. But not the grand, life-altering choices we imagine. The micro-choices of attention. In the Arctic, there is a phenomenon called frost flowers. On thin, new sea ice, when the air is much colder than the ice, exquisite, feathery crystals of salt blossom directly from the surface, creating delicate, temporary gardens in the harshest environment on Earth. They are not planted. They are an emergent property of specific conditions: salt, cold, thin ice, and stillness. Your moments of peace, of feeling enough, are like these frost flowers. They cannot be willed into existence by effort alone. They emerge when the conditions are right. A measure of self-compassion, the salt, a calming of mental turbulence, the cold, still air, a vulnerability, the thin ice of an open heart, and a cessation of striving, the stillness. The feeling of lack is the condition of thick, old ice under a warm wind. The conditions for frost flowers are absent. The practice is not to desperately sculpt ice flowers with your hands. It is to patiently, gently, cultivate the inner conditions where they might spontaneously arise. You tend to the salt of your tears, you welcome the cold clarity of truth, you allow your defenses to become thin, and you practice stillness. Then you wait. The flowers are not your creation, but they bloom in the garden of your cultivated awareness. This shifts the paradigm from acquisition to hospitality. You are not a hunter stalking fulfillment. You are a gardener preparing soil for a specific, delicate bloom. The lack is not an empty plot. It is a plot currently growing the robust weeds of worry, control, and past narratives. Gardening is the slow, gentle work of weeding and amending the soil. The bloom comes on its own schedule. Consider the observer effect in a broader sense than physics. In social science, the Hawthorne effect suggests that people change their behavior simply because they know they are being studied. Your own mindful attention is a gentle, loving form of being studied by your own highest self. The moment you bring non-judgmental awareness to the feeling of lack, it begins to change. It cannot remain the same when held in the light of pure observation. It might intensify briefly, like a creature startled by a flashlight, but then it often softens, dissipates, or reveals its true nature. You don't have to fight the feeling. You just have to turn the light of your attention toward it. The lack is a shadow. It depends on you looking away to maintain its power. When you look directly at it, you see it has no substance of its own. It is just an absence of light in a certain shape. I remember a time of intense anxiety about the future, a classic feeling of lacking security. I tried to plan, to control, to figure it out. The lack grew. Finally, exhausted, I sat down and did a simple exercise. I wrote down the feeling as if it were a character. I am lack of security. I feel like a cold, hollow wind in the chest. I whisper, what if it all falls apart? Then, I just looked at this description. I observed the character. And a strange thing happened. In giving it a shape and a name, it separated from me. I was no longer being the anxiety, I was seeing the anxiety. The hollow wind was still a sensation, but it was no longer me. It was a weather pattern passing through the sky of my awareness. The sense of lack lost its existential grip. It became a manageable, if uncomfortable, experience. This is the power of objectification through mindful observation. Now, let's explore through the metaphor of anti-fragility, a concept coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Something fragile breaks under stress, a wine glass. Something robust withstands stress, a rock. Something anti-fragile actually improves, grows stronger, or gains from disorder, the immune system after exposure to a pathogen, muscle after being broken down by exercise. Your sense of self, when it is identified solely with a fixed, comfortable story, is fragile. The feeling of lack is a stressor that threatens to break that story. If you cling to the fragile story, you suffer. But what if you could cultivate an anti-fragile sense of being? One that doesn't just withstand the feeling of lack, but uses it as information, as a trigger for growth and reorganization. The lack of a satisfying job becomes the stressor that forces you to develop new skills or clarify your values. The lack in a relationship becomes the signal to develop better communication or self-love. The existential lack becomes the invitation to seek a deeper, non-conceptual ground of being. The feeling of lack, in this frame, is not the enemy. It is the weight you lift to become stronger. It is the exposure to the psychic pathogen that builds your spiritual immune system. The question shifts from, how do I get rid of this feeling? To, how can this feeling make me wiser, kinder, more resilient, more real? This is the alchemy of the path, turning the lead of suffering into the gold of wisdom. The lack is the lead. Let's visit a story from the history of music about the well-tempered clavier. Before the 18th century, keyboard instruments were tuned in just intonation, which sounded perfect in one key but produced horrible, dissonant wolves, out-of-tune intervals, in other keys. This limited composition. Then, tuning systems like equal temperament were developed. They slightly compromised the perfect purity of each individual chord so that all keys became playable. No key was perfectly in tune, but every key was acceptably in tune. The result was a liberation for composers like Bach, who could now freely modulate between keys, creating music of unimaginable complexity and beauty. Your psyche might be tuned in just intonation. You have a few keys, a few life scenarios, identities, or moods, where you feel perfectly in tune, harmonious, lacking nothing. But venture into other emotional or life keys, grief, uncertainty, boredom, failure, and the wolves of dissonance and lack howl. Spiritual practice is the process of moving toward equal temperament of the soul. You learn to accept a slight compromise on the ideal of perfect happiness in every moment. You embrace the slight dissonance of difficult emotions as part of the full chromatic scale of human experience. In doing so, you gain freedom. You can now modulate through the full range of life's experiences without falling apart, because your inner tuning is resilient and flexible. The feeling of lack in a difficult key is not a sign your instrument is broken. It's a sign you are playing in a richer, more complex composition than you could have imagined when you only allowed yourself to play in C major. A friend who is a therapist shared this insight. The clients who suffer most are often those with the most rigid, just intonation, expectations for life and themselves. The work of therapy is often to help them develop equal temperament, the capacity to hold contradictions, to tolerate ambiguity, to find a functional harmony even in life's dissonant passages. The lack of perfect harmony becomes the gateway to a more expansive, resilient kind of wholeness. Now, consider a principle from complexity theory, emergence. This is when a complex system exhibits properties or behaviors that its individual parts do not have. A single neuron is not conscious. A network of billions, arranged just so, produces consciousness. A single termite follows simple rules. A colony builds a magnificent, climate-controlled mound. The feeling of you as a separate, lacking entity is like focusing on a single termite. You see only your own limited movements, your own simple cravings and fears. You feel incomplete. But you are part of a colony, the emergent phenomenon of a conscious universe, of life itself, of a society, of a flow of energy and information billions of years old. From the perspective of the colony, the termite is never lacking. It is always performing its perfect, tiny role in a vast, intelligent structure. Your sense of lack is the myopia of the termite. When you shift your identification to the emergent whole, to life itself, to awareness itself, the termite's worries vanish. You realize your lack was an illusion created by a too small frame of reference. You are not a termite. You are the intelligence of the entire mound. And the mound is complete. This is the mystical realization. The drop discovers it is the ocean. The feeling of lack is the drop's fear of evaporation. The ocean knows no such fear. Finally, reflect on the simple, ancient practice of laying down stones. On pilgrimages, like the Camino de Santiago, walkers often pick up a small stone at the beginning, imbuing it with a burden, a regret, a fear, a sorrow. They carry it for miles, feeling its weight. At a certain point, often a high mountain pass or a sacred site, there is a tradition of laying the stone down, leaving the burden there. The stone remains, but the walker's relationship to it changes. It is no longer a carried weight, it is part of the landscape. Your feeling of lack is that stone. You picked it up somewhere, from a childhood message, a cultural myth, a past failure. You have been carrying it, believing its weight is an inherent part of you. The spiritual journey is the walk. The practices of meditation, self-inquiry, and compassion are the miles. And there comes a point, not by effort but by grace of the long walk itself, where you find you can lay it down. You don't throw it away in anger. You simply place it gently on the pile with millions of other stones left by other pilgrims. You leave your lack on the mountain. It doesn't mean the stone disappears from the world. It means you are no longer defined by carrying it. You walk on, lighter, your hands empty and open, ready to feel the sun, the wind, the simple freedom of the path ahead. You are the pilgrim, not the stone. The path is long, but it leads to the place where every stone can be laid down. In our journey, we've moved from seeing lack as a problem to understanding it as a signal, a ceremony, even a necessary part of a greater whole. Now, let's consider the element that allows for all transformation: space. Not outer space, but inner space, the psychological and spiritual room to breathe, to be, to change. In architecture, there is a concept called negative space, the empty areas around and between the solid forms of a building. It's not wasted space. It defines the building's shape, allows light to enter, and creates the experience of moving through it. A cathedral's grandeur is as much in its vaulted emptiness as in its stone pillars. Your inner life has negative space. It's the quiet between thoughts, the pause between actions, the openness of awareness when you're not focused on any specific thing. The feeling of something missing is often a misinterpretation of this negative space. You perceive the emptiness and label it lack, assuming it should be filled with some positive content, a thought, a feeling, an achievement. But what if that emptiness is not a deficit, but a defining feature of your consciousness? What if it is the very cathedral vault of your soul, the necessary openness that allows the light of awareness to fill you? Without that space, you would be a solid block, dense, impenetrable, without room for movement, light, or growth. The feeling of lack is the itch to clutter the cathedral with furniture. The practice of meditation is learning to appreciate the sacred emptiness of the nave. This is beautifully illustrated by the Japanese art of karasansui, or dry landscape gardening, the Zen rock gardens of raked gravel and strategically placed stones. The gravel is raked into patterns representing water, flowing around islands of stone. The vast majority of the garden is empty gravel. This emptiness is not a lack. It is the essence of the garden. It represents the sea, the void, the flowing nature of mind. The mind that sees only the rocks, the thoughts, the solid objects of desire, and misses the raked gravel, the spacious awareness, will feel the garden is barren. The mind that rests in the gravel perceives infinite movement, peace, and possibility. Your restless thoughts are the rocks. Your awareness is the raked gravel. The feeling of lack is focusing only on the rocks and calling the gravel empty. When you learn to rest in the gravel, to appreciate the patterns of emptiness, the rocks become beautiful focal points in a vast, serene sea. You are no longer lacking gravel. You are the gravel, and the rocks, and the hand that rakes. I recall visiting a modern art installation that was simply a large, white, empty room with a single bench. People would walk in, look around, and often leave quickly, muttering, "There's nothing here." But if you sat on the bench for 5 minutes, the room began to change. You noticed the subtle shift of light from a high window. You heard the almost imperceptible hum of the building. You felt the vastness of the uncluttered space. What initially felt like a lack became a profound experience of spaciousness and presence. The room didn't change. The perception did. Your inner world is that white room. You keep trying to fill it with mental furniture, and then you complain it's crowded and still unsatisfying. The practice is to sit on the bench of your own awareness and do nothing. Just be in the room. Soon, what you called nothing reveals itself as the most important something, the space of freedom itself. Now, let's examine a concept from ecology, ecological succession. After a forest fire or a landslide, the land is left bare, a clear case of lack. But this bareness initiates a predictable sequence. First come pioneer species, lichens, mosses, grasses, that can survive in harsh conditions. They stabilize the soil, add nutrients. Then shrubs, then fast-growing trees, and finally, a mature, climax community, forest. Each stage is complete in itself and necessary for the next. Your feeling of inner bareness, of being stripped back to essentials after a crisis or in a quiet moment of despair, is not a permanent state of lack. It is the beginning of your inner ecological succession. You are in the pioneer stage. This is not a time to lament the missing mature forest. It is a time to be the hardy lichen, to do the simple, foundational work of stabilizing your ground, of adding the basic nutrients of self-care and gentle attention. The climax forest of a complex, vibrant, resilient life cannot grow without passing through this stage. The feeling of lack is the impatience of the lichen, wishing it were an oak. But the lichen's work is sacred. It is making the future forest possible. Honor your pioneer stage. A friend who lost her long-term job described a year of feeling utterly barren, useless. She called it her scrubland period. She did very little that looked productive. She walked. She cooked simple meals. She slept. She let herself be bored. Slowly, without forcing it, tiny shoots of interest emerged, a curiosity about gardening, then about native plants, then about landscape design. Today, she runs a small, successful ecological landscaping business. She says, "I had to be nothing before I could become something completely new. The emptiness wasn't killing me, it was composting the old me to feed the new." Her lack was the fertile ground of succession. Let's shift to a metaphor from materials science, the shape memory alloy. This is a metal that can be deformed when cold but will return to its original, remembered, shape when heated. Nitinol, used in eyeglass frames and medical stents, is one example. You can bend it into a convoluted shape, but apply a little warmth, and it springs back to its true form. Your psyche has a shape memory. Under the cold conditions of stress, fear, or societal pressure, you can be deformed into shapes that are not you, the shape of the relentless achiever, the perpetual pleaser, the cynical protector. These shapes feel uncomfortable, strained, lacking. They are not your original form. The feeling of lack is the metal's strain, its longing to spring back. The heat that restores you is the warmth of loving awareness, of truth, of returning to the body and the breath. You don't have to force yourself back into shape. You just have to apply the gentle, consistent heat of your own compassionate attention. Your original, whole, and peaceful shape is already encoded within you. It is waiting for the conditions to remember itself. This is why practices that warm the heart, metta, loving kindness, meditation, gratitude, connection with nature, are so powerful. They are the applied heat that allows the distorted shapes of anxiety and lack to soften and return to their natural, relaxed state. Finally, consider the phenomenon of beta decay in nuclear physics. In a radioactive nucleus, a neutron can transform into a proton, emitting an electron and an antineutrino in the process. The element changes. It becomes something new. This happens not through external force, but through an internal instability seeking a more stable state. Your feeling of lack may be a kind of psychic beta decay. An old structure of belief, identity, or desire has become unstable. It is seeking to transform into something new, something more stable and true. The discomfort, the sense of something being off or missing, is the emission, the release of energy and old material as the change occurs. You are not falling apart. You are undergoing a fundamental change of state at the very core of your being. The lack is the old neutron saying goodbye. The new proton, a clearer, more positive charge, is what you are becoming. Resist the decay, and you live in perpetual, toxic instability. Allow it, and you become a new element, better suited for the next phase of your existence. You are not a static element on a periodic table. You are alchemy in motion. The feeling of lack is the fire of the transformation. It feels like destruction because you are identified with what is being consumed. But you are also what is being born. As we near the culmination of our exploration, let's turn to the most intimate relationship you have, the relationship with your own experience. The feeling of lack is fundamentally a relational issue, a breakdown in the relationship between you and this moment. Imagine a master swordsmith in ancient Japan forging a katana. The process involves repeatedly heating, folding, and hammering the steel to remove impurities and create thousands of layers. The steel and the smith are in a dynamic, intimate relationship. The steel resists, sings under the hammer, changes its nature. The smith listens to the sound of the hammer, watches the color of the heat, feels the metal's response. He is not dominating the steel, he is collaborating with its potential to become a blade. Your present moment is the red-hot steel. Your awareness is the smith. The feeling of lack is the sound of a clumsy hammer blow, a moment of force without listening, an attempt to dominate the experience into a shape you desire, rather than working with its inherent potential. Peace is found when you bring the smith's quality of attention to your experience, listening, feeling, responding with precision and respect, not with brute force. You are not trying to beat the moment into a sword of pleasure. You are collaborating with it to reveal its own innate strength and beauty, whatever form that takes. This is the art of inner hospitality. You meet each guest, boredom, anxiety, joy, sadness, lack itself, not as an intruder to be expelled, but as a visitor with something to teach. You offer it the space of your attention. You listen to its story. In this deep listening, the visitor often transforms, or simply departs, having been fully received. The feeling of lack is a guest who feels unwelcome, so it pounds on the door incessantly. Welcome it in. Offer it tea. Sit with it. You may find it's not a monster, but a lost child, a weary traveler, a messenger you've been ignoring. Let's explore this through a principle from communication theory, signal-to-noise ratio. This is the ratio of meaningful information, signal, to irrelevant or distracting data, noise. A poor signal-to-noise ratio makes it hard to decipher the message. Your mind, filled with the noise of societal expectations, past regrets, future worries, and compulsive thinking, has a poor signal-to-noise ratio. The quiet, persistent signal of your deepest truth, which might be whispering, "This path isn't you," or "Rest now," or "Create this," is drowned out. The feeling of lack is the frustration of hearing only noise. You think the signal is missing. But the signal is always there, broadcasting. The practice of mindfulness, silence, and contemplation is not about generating a new signal. It's about turning down the volume of the internal noise so the existing signal can come through clearly. The lack you feel is not of a signal, but of a quiet channel to hear it on. A story from the early days of telegraphy illustrates this. The first transatlantic telegraph cable, after immense effort, was laid. The initial messages were faint, almost indecipherable, lost in oceanic static. Engineers were ready to declare it a failure. Then, the operator, after exhausting all amplification techniques, did something counterintuitive. He reduced the receiver's sensitivity. By filtering out some of the frantic effort to hear, he created a cleaner band. The faint, true signal emerged from the noise. Your efforts to fix your lack by adding more activity, more analysis, more striving are like cranking up the sensitivity on a noisy receiver. It just amplifies the static. The solution might be to reduce the sensitivity, to pull back, to simplify, to cease the frantic effort to hear an answer. In that quieting, the faint, true signal of your own wholeness might finally become audible. Now, consider the biological concept of apoptosis, or programmed cell death. This is not cell death from injury or poison. It is a healthy, essential process where cells self-destruct for the greater good of the organism. They die to make space for new cells, to sculpt tissues, like the spaces between your fingers, or to remove damaged cells. Your psyche undergoes apoptosis. Old selves, outworn identities, finished chapters must die to make space for the new. This death is not a tragedy, it is a biological and spiritual necessity. The feeling of lack is often the pang of this apoptosis, the healthy death of something that has served its purpose. You mistake it for a failure, an emptiness caused by loss. But it is the body of your soul, wisely making space. The grief is real, but it is the grief of a necessary and sacred shedding. Do not confuse the hollow space left by a shed skin with a lack of life. It is the prerequisite for growth. I think of a man who defined himself as the caretaker for his aging parents for a decade. When they passed, he felt a catastrophic lack of purpose, identity, and meaning. The structure of his life had apoptosed. He wandered in the emptiness for months. Then, slowly, in that cleared space, a new passion for woodworking, a hobby he'd neglected, began to grow. He wasn't just a caretaker anymore, he was becoming a creator. The apoptosis of the caretaker role was painful but essential for the birth of the artist. His lack was the fertile void between identities. Let's use a metaphor from navigation, dead reckoning. This is the process of calculating your current position based on a previously known position, using estimated speed, direction, and time, without celestial or electronic fixes. It's prone to cumulative error. The longer you go without a true fix, the more lost you can become. Many of us navigate life by dead reckoning. We take a known position from our past, I was happy when I achieved X, and project a course, therefore, more X will make me happy. But the currents of life, the winds of change, introduce error. After years of this, we find ourselves far from where we thought we'd be, feeling lost and lacking. The feeling of lack is the alarm that your dead reckoning is off. It's not telling you your destination is wrong. It's telling you that you need a true fix. You need to stop, look up at the stars, the timeless truths of your own being, and get your actual bearings. The practices of stillness and self-inquiry are your sextant and stars. They don't tell you where to go, they tell you where you are. And knowing where you truly are, in this present moment, is the first step toward any meaningful journey. The lack dissolves when you stop navigating from a past assumption and start from the truth of your present coordinates. Finally, reflect on the simple, profound wisdom of the humble spider's web. The web is a marvel of engineering, built from the spider's own substance. It is both a trap and a home, a sensor network and a work of art. But its most crucial feature is its tension. Each radial thread is pulled taut, and the spiral threads have just the right give. This precise tension allows the web to absorb the impact of prey without breaking. If the web were too loose, it would be ineffective. If it were too rigid, it would shatter. Your psyche is a web. Your beliefs, relationships, ambitions, and self-concept are the threads. The feeling of lack is often a signal that the web's tension is off. Perhaps some threads, expectations, are pulled too tight, creating a brittle, fragile structure that rings with the slightest tremor of disappointment. Perhaps others, self-worth, are too slack, leaving you feeling unsupported and sagging. The work of balance is not about adding more threads, more stuff, more goals. It's about adjusting the tension, loosening your grip on outcomes, tightening your connection to the present, finding the resilient give and take that allows life's impacts to be absorbed without destroying your entire structure. The lack is the sound of a string vibrating out of tune in the web's symphony. Listen to it. It is telling you exactly which thread needs your gentle, adjusting touch. You are the weaver and the web. The feeling of lack is not a condemnation of the design. It is feedback from the structure itself, an invitation to find a more resilient, harmonious tension. We have traveled a long path together, through many landscapes of understanding. We've seen lack as a signal, a space, a ceremony, a transformation. Now, as we draw our exploration to a close, let's land in the simplest, most immediate truth available to you, the truth of sensation. The feeling of lack, no matter how vast and existential it seems, must manifest somewhere in your body. A tightness in the chest. A hollow feeling in the gut. A constriction in the throat. A restless energy in the limbs. It is not an abstract concept floating in the ether, it is a physical experience. And any physical experience, when met with bare, non-judgmental attention, begins to change. It may intensify, it may move, it may dissolve. But it cannot remain the same monolithic problem when you bring the microscope of your awareness to its specific, sensory details. Try it now, as you listen. Where in your body do you feel the most sensation? Perhaps it's the weight of your body against the surface you're on. The gentle movement of breath in your abdomen. Without searching for a problem, just feel that. Now, if there is a background sense of unrest, of something not being quite settled, see if you can locate it physically. Don't analyze it. Don't call it lack. Just feel its texture. Is it heavy? Is it fluttery? Is it hot? Cool? Does it have a boundary? Just be curious, as if you were a scientist discovering a new phenomenon. In this direct sensing, the story of lack often falls away. What remains is just sensation. A part of the ever-changing tapestry of your alive body. And in that alive body, there is no story of not enough. There is only pulsing, flowing, vibrating life. You have stepped out of the narrative and into the reality. This is the final, and perhaps most important, gate. Concepts are endless. Stories can be rewritten forever. But the body exists only in the present. Its sensations are the anchor that can always bring you back from the stormy seas of thought about the past and future, back to the solid ground of now. And in the now, evaluated purely on the evidence of direct experience, are you truly lacking? You are breathing. You are hearing. You are aware. A body is being supported. A heart is beating. The basic conditions for life are being met, in this instant. Everything else is a story. The feeling of lack is a story about a sensation. When you drop the story and just feel the sensation, you are free. Let's end with one last story, a modern parable. A woman named Anya worked for a major tech company, optimizing algorithms for a social media platform. Her job was to increase engagement, to get people to click, scroll, and spend more time in the digital feed. She was good at it. But she began to feel a deep, moral and spiritual emptiness. She was literally programming the machine of distraction that kept people from their own lives. Her feeling of lack was acute. She tried meditation apps, yoga retreats, but the hollow feeling persisted. One weekend, utterly drained, she visited her grandfather in the countryside. He was a retired clockmaker. She found him in his workshop, bent over a disassembled 19th century carriage clock. He wasn't fixing it to sell it. He was fixing it for the sake of the clock itself, to restore its inherent function of marking true time. She watched his utterly absorbed, patient, reverent attention. He wasn't trying to increase the clock's engagement. He was helping it remember how to tick in harmony with the turning of the earth. In that moment, she had her insight. Her entire life had been about optimizing for external engagement, for likes, for promotions, for spiritual experiences, and it had left her empty. She was starving for internal alignment. For the simple, patient ticking of her own being in harmony with something real. She didn't quit her job immediately. But she began, in small ways, to reclock herself. She would take 5 minutes to simply stare out a window, aligning with the slow movement of clouds. She would eat a meal without looking at a screen, aligning with the taste of food. She would listen to a friend without planning her response, aligning with the rhythm of another human heart. Slowly, the feeling of lack was replaced not by a new abundance, but by a deep sense of accuracy. She was beginning to tell true time again. Your feeling of something missing is the clock of your soul, chiming softly but insistently, telling you that you are out of sync. You are measuring yourself against the frantic, digital seconds of achievement and acquisition, while your true mechanism is calibrated to the patient hours of presence, the long seasons of growth, the eternal now that contains all time. The search ends not when you find what was missing, but when you realize you are the clock, and you were only ever meant to tell one time, this time. The time of this breath. The time of this heartbeat. The time of this listening. And in that realization, you are already complete. The hands have been pointing to now all along. Thank you for spending this time in the temple. May the peace you have touched here remain with you, not as a memory, but as a living truth in the simplicity of your next breath, your next step, your next moment of gentle awareness. Sleep well, and know that you are already home.